I'm going to show you how I got more than a dozen scholarship offers in just 5 months. And really what I'm going to do is break down how my strategy transformed over the course of many months. So I'm going to show you January, February, March, April, May, and you're going to be able to see the way that my emails changed, the way that I was communicating with college coaches, how that transformed over those months and ended up taking me from basically having my scholarship pulled at Oregon, transferring to a junior college, and then eventually going on and playing in the SEC. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what this looks like. So here's some important context, right? So what happened was my freshman year of college, I was playing at the University of Oregon and I earned the starting spot. So I was a starting catcher. I played about 25 games, but I played pretty poorly. So what ended up happening is halfway through the season, I lost my spot. A senior came in and started playing instead of me. So the summer after my freshman year, I got a call from my coach at Oregon and he said, you no longer have a scholarship, right? They pulled my scholarship for performance reasons. And so that was a big bummer, but I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to Oregon and I'm going to try and earn my spot back. So I showed up first semester of sophomore year, ready to earn my spot back. I remember training super hard the summer before that, after they told me I'd lost my scholarship, my spot. And I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. So I trained really hard. I got a lot bigger. I got a lot stronger. I became a better player. And actually, I played pretty well in the fall. I'll be honest with you. I thought I played pretty well in the fall, but it didn't really matter. I still ended up fourth on the depth chart, and it was clear that I was not going to play that year, right? If there's 3 catchers ahead of you, I was a catcher, and only one of them gets on the field at a time, very unlikely that I was going to get on the field at all that year. And so I had 2 choices here, right? I could stay at Oregon, not play at all, and just hope that people in front of me play poorly or, maybe gets hurt. You never want to hope that someone gets hurt. But if that happens, that's really my only chance of getting on the field. And the other option is that I could transfer to a junior college. I could bet on myself and hopefully play well enough to get back to a D1. This was before the transfer rules changed where you could go from a D1 to another D1. So I had to bounce back to a junior college. And this was a really hard decision for me. I wasn't sure if this was something that I wanted to do. There's a lot that could go wrong. If I don't play well, I might never get back to a D1. If I get hurt, my career might be over. So there was a lot of angst about this decision. But ultimately, I decided that that was the move for me. And so second semester of my sophomore year, I transferred to Orange Coast College. And I said, okay, I need to generate interest from D1 schools. And in high school, I didn't know how to do that. I had a really hard time generating interest in high school. And I was like, man, I got to learn how to actually do this. And so we had to do something differently. And so the question was, how do I strategically generate interest and offers from D1 schools? How can I do that intentionally so that I'm not hoping it happens, that I'm not gambling that it happens, but that I'm actually strategically generating interest? And so what ended up happening was in January of 2015, which was that first semester that I was in junior college, I had zero, interest or offers going into it. And just 5 months later, June of 2015, I had more than a dozen scholarship offers from schools like Mississippi State, Baylor, UConn, and more. And so this video is about showing you how that happened, how I went from knowing absolutely nothing about recruiting to getting a bunch of scholarships and roster spots. So here's how my strategy improved and evolved each month, okay? So for this first month, it's January, right? Put yourself in my shoes. It's January. I've just transferred to a junior college. No D1 schools know that I'm on the roster, that I am capable of being recruited. So no one knows that I left Oregon or knows that I exist. And so the question became, well, how do I let them know, right? How can I tell them, hey, I'm available to be recruited? And the answer was, well, we could do it via email, okay? So at the time, I sent about 15 emails. Now, keep in mind, this was about 10-ish years ago. And so I didn't need to send a billion of them like you do now in order to get a lot of interest. So I sent about 15, okay? And I got a couple schools interested. Nothing crazy. This is, a good start, but nothing really to write home about. And so I just did not hear much from these coaches that showed interest. I didn't hear much after the first conversation, right? So maybe 2 of them responded, and then it was like, all right, great. are they just going to recruit me, or like, how's this going to work? Because yeah, I went through the process in high school, but I didn't have a ton of interest. And so I didn't really know what I was doing. And so this was not a bad start. Like getting a couple schools interested right away from just 15 emails, which is not a lot, was not bad, right? And so here's the email that I was sending, right? Look at the date here, January 26th of 2015. And so this was my first email to coaches. It was like, all right, I'm going to try to get on their radar. And so I said, here's my name. Past 18 months, I've been playing at Oregon. I'm a catcher. I recently decided to transfer, right? Hey, I'm a good student. I'd like to talk to you. I look forward to hearing from you soon. This is a terrible email. And so it was able to generate a little bit of interest from me, but this is not a good email for a number of reasons, right? This stuff right here is not helpful at all. It doesn't need to be in there. There's no video. Like, where is the video? Which is the whole reason to send the email in the first place. So I was lucky to get interest from this. Pretty much the only reason that I got any interest from this was because I was an Oregon bounce back. That's like the only reason that I got any interest from this. And so as you can see, this was not a great start, but I did get a couple schools interested. So now we move into February, right? And so a couple things have happened or need to happen now, right? So one, I want to go generate new interest because I only had a couple schools that were interested. And then the second thing is that I wanted to build interest with the schools that responded, because I got a little bit of interest and I was, talking to them, but that relationship wasn't moving forward in any meaningful way. And I was like, how do I actually turn this interest into an offer? And so with generating new interest, it was clear that email worked. I was like, all right, when I send emails to coaches, some of them do respond positively. So if I send more of them, hopefully I will get more responses. But it was clear that I needed to do it better, right? And so I asked myself this right here. I said, if I was a college coach, what would I want in the email, right? And I thought about it. And ideally, as a coach, I said, I would want to see the player in person as much as possible, right? Because that's how I know that they're going to be good enough for my school, but it's obviously not feasible. And so I said, well, what would be the next best thing? And the next best thing would be video, because video is a simulation of a coach watching you play live. That's why it's valuable. They want to see you in person. They can't do it all the time. So instead, they watch your video because that is the next best thing. And so I said, great, I'm going to start putting video as the centerpiece of all of my campaigns. And I started doing it with building interest with the schools that responded as well, right? They're not contacting me all the time. How do I continue these conversations with this critical piece right here without being annoying? And originally, when I sent this email right here without video, a lot of those coaches responded saying, do you have video? And I was like, okay, so maybe I should just send more video. Like, coaches seem to really like this video, so maybe I should just send more of it. And so you can see here the next month. This is February, all right? And so I changed up my email just a little bit. I took that email, right? I added his number in here, my coach's number, which I didn't do before. And then I added a bunch of video down here at the bottom. It's like, maybe this is what college coaches want. And so you can see it's starting to come together, right? It's starting to come together. I'm starting to get better. I'm starting to improve. And so at this point, I started building up some interest, right? Because now I'm sending video. Coaches are seeing me play and they're like, okay, this kid's got some talent. Maybe he would be good for our school. And so here's where we're at in March, right? So in March, I'm generating a lot of interest, but I don't have any offers yet, right? I got no offers, but I'm talking to some schools. It feels like I have momentum. And so I came to the conclusion that it probably means that coaches aren't 100% sold on me, because if they were 100% convinced that I was the player for their team, they would have given me an offer already. And so the question became this right here. How can I convince them that I am the best option that they have, that they are not going to find anything better than me? And I said, you know what? It's got to be that I need to give them more proof, right? If they were at a 0% confidence level and I'm trying to get them to 100% confidence level that I am a good player and that they should recruit me, right? If they've shown some interest, they're probably somewhere in the middle, right? They have some confidence, but not enough confidence. And the question was, how do I move them from one to the other? And so I said, you know what? I need to give them more proof, because if I give them more proof, they'll grow in confidence. And so I started sending emails like this. You can see this is from March. I started sending these like short emails like, hey coach, here's some more video. And then I would include these videos. And then I started getting better too. Notice in the beginning, I just started sending, video, but here I start getting more specific. Hey, what is the video? Where's the action in the video, right? And I was just trying to make it as easy on coaches as I possibly could. And to my surprise, so look at the dates here. This was March 2nd, as you can see, and this is March 3rd from big schools, right? This is a D1 school. I'm not talking about some small schools here. This works for any kind of school. And he's like, hey, thanks for the videos, right? Thanks again for the updates. This is what we want to see. And then they're saying here, hey, we're going to come watch you. And so I just kept sending emails sort of like this. And keep in mind, not all of these emails are perfect, okay? Like what we do now and what we teach now is similar to this, but the scripts are different. There's better ways to do this. But as you could see, it was working. And I was like, oh man, I'm actually building relationships with these schools. And so now we head into April, right? And so at this point, I have built up a pretty strong amount of interest. I'm having back and forths with lots of schools, right? And so the two questions that I really had were, one, how can I build the interest? I'm going to go to the right side first. How do I build interest with the schools that have responded and get them to this 80% confidence? Because then once we get to 80% confidence, I can start moving into like converting that interest into actual offers. And so the question was, how do I build that interest to 80% confidence? And then the second one was, can I generate interest from some schools that I am especially interested in, but who haven't reached out yet? These would be schools that I emailed. They never responded to me, but I am particularly interested in them, so I wanted to follow up with them, right? So they didn't respond to the first email. And I'm thinking, well, maybe their situation has changed, right? Like if I emailed them in January, they didn't respond, and then season goes by, there's been a few months in between, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking maybe if their players didn't play well, like their catchers didn't play well, maybe now they're looking for a catcher. And so I sent another email, right? And so you can see this one. This was to Michigan, right? And so in Michigan, if you read this sentence right here, I sent you an email earlier this year asking if you needed a catcher. And if I sent this email to them, it means that they did not respond to that initial email, right? And so you can see this one is now April 9th. And so if I come here, you can see this is Michigan, April 13th, 4 days later, can you send me your cell? Thanks. And so I ended up getting on the phone with Michigan. And he said, yeah, at the beginning of the year, we had a freshman that we were really excited about, and he's going to be the future of our program. And so we didn't think we needed a catcher. But then as we started going through the season, we realized that guy's going to be better at first base. And so now all of a sudden we need a catcher to step in. And that's why he now responded to my email, right? And so I started trying to generate interest from schools that I was particularly interested in that maybe didn't respond to my first email. Right? And so now we have all these different pieces that are coming together. I'm generating as much interest as I can. I'm building the interest that I currently have. I'm trying to go back and double back and go to the schools that I'm especially interested in. Everything is coming together. Everything's coming together. So now we're in May, right? We're in month 5. I have a lot of interest and offers rolling in. Right? And I'm trying to decide where to take these visits. And so everything is coming together. You can see this is Mississippi State. How about dates for the visit, right? You can see this is Baylor. And if you look at these dates, this is May 27th. This is May 10th. And I think the one down here is June. Yeah, June, but you get the idea. And so this is Baylor. You can see right here. And said, prepared to make you a good offer as soon as possible. We'd like to get you on campus. And then he even says here, to confirm our intentions, I'm going to email you a scholarship offer as soon as we have your transcripts evaluated, right? And then they came back and ended up giving me an offer. And of course, you have UConn down here. Thanks for your visit to UConn. We'd love to make you a Husky. And so I went from, if we look at this process, right, in the beginning, in January, I went from losing my scholarship, 4th on the depth chart, transferring to junior college, 0 interest or offers in January, right? And even worse than that, I had no idea how to email coaches, how to make videos, or how to get my name on the recruiting map. And just 5 months later, I was systematically generating interest from college coaches. When I say systematically generating interest, I mean not by luck. I had a system that was repeatable, that when I took action on the system, I got results. I got interest and I got offers. I had coaches telling me, I wish everyone was doing what you were doing because I was making it so easy for coaches to recruit me, right? And a lot of this is what we teach now at D1 Scholarship. I had more than a dozen scholarship offers. I was turning away schools like USC. I remember getting a call from USC, and I grew up pretty close to USC. And so when they called, it was a cool moment for me, but I just had no interest in USC. And so I told that USC coach, I was like, hey, you know what, man? I just don't have any interest in USC. And he was bummed. But it was so cool because I was in an opportunity where I had so many offers. I was able to turn away a great school like USC, right? Eventually committed to Mississippi State. And so this kid, it was Pac-12, and I had lost my scholarship. I was fourth on the depth chart, and just not that much later, I'm committed to a school in the SEC. Ended up winning an SEC championship there. I was a first-team All-SEC player. And then eventually I was drafted by the Los Angeles Angels and played 7 years of pro ball, right? And so this is just one of those things that you never really expect, right? You never expect. And I had to learn this trial by fire. Like, I tested a bunch of different stuff. Like, what works? What doesn't work? And what does work? How can I make my emails? How can I make my videos? How can I have these phone calls with coaches? How can I get an edge? How can I do things differently than what everyone else is doing? And eventually, I was able to do that, and a lot of it is what we teach now at D1 Scholarship. Obviously, this was like version 1, and now we're on like version 40. And so, man, I wish I had what we do now, years ago. It would have been much better, and I probably would have had even more interest and offers than I do right now. So if you're interested, if you're the parent of a high school athlete and you want help in the recruiting process, you can book a call with us. The link is in the description, and otherwise, I will see you guys next time.